even though there were people in Fort Lauderdale who didn't necessarily appreciate the gay culture and the gay lifestyle, more and more gay people were coming to Fort Lauderdale. And still, it was a transient kind of place, and we did see a lot of people come, go. But at the same time, we were hit with the AIDS epidemic. And we were hit very hard, and we all lost friends. And I was very lucky. I had a boyfriend, and we were very monogamous, and I escaped that. And I feel very lucky to have been one of the few of my generation to have escaped the fact that I never contracted HIV. So, but I was definitely a witness to it, and I saw it all around me. Almost thought of leaving Fort Lauderdale because it was too intense. I thought of going back to Connecticut. I thought of going to other places. But I stayed here because I established a practice. When you're a professional, you can't just pick up and leave because you start to build a network of clients. So, so we lived through it, some of us did, and we persevered. To a large extent, that impacted the equal rights movement within our community, because around 1990, a group, really in 1989, a group of activists here in Fort Lauderdale got together and were making an effort to add sexual orientation to an equal rights ordinance that already existed in the Broward County laws. So, and that's the law that says you can't discriminate based on, race, religion, color, national origin, and so forth. But sexual orientation was missing. So it was our first step in moving forward to make that happen. Now, you may recall back in the 1970s, the folks in Miami-Dade County back then, attempted to pass an ordinance, an amendment to their equal rights ordinance, adding sexual orientation to their books, and in fact it was successful. It was passed, but then came Anita Bryant, and through her efforts it was overturned, and it was really a very difficult moment for the gay community, I would imagine. I wasn't out then. I was still in law school. I read about it. I saw it. And it certainly changed a lot of people's minds about what being gay was about. And it brought us to the forefront. Nevertheless, there wasn't a whole lot of activity in Broward County with regard to equal rights until the late 80s, when a group got together and they decided we were going to make the same attempt here in Broward County. So who were those people? None of them are here today, unfortunately. They all died. There was a fellow named Brad Buckman, really young guy, very energetic, attractive, spoke beautifully. Everybody loved Brad. He was the starling, the star in our community because he was a great leader. He was only in his young 20s. Then there was Gary Steinsmith. Also, I believe he was in his 30s at the time. A firebrand, very emotional, almost to the point where he offended a number of people whenever he spoke, but he definitely was a lot of the energy behind the effort. Then we had Tom Bradshaw, another very emotional person who I've never seen smile, and yet he was an important component to this. There was Jamie Bloodworth. She and her partner were together part of this, but her partner was sort of in the background. It was Jamie that really was part of this, and she sat on their board. And then, of course, there was Alan Turl. It was Alan Turl that pretty much led this group from a logistics and legalistic point of view, because he was the attorney in the group, and he shepherded this effort through the county commission. So I heard about it, and what they were trying to do was to try to get a referendum, a countywide referendum, in order to change the ordinance. At the time, in 1990, that was the status of the law. You could not just expect the Broward County Commission to amend their own ordinance. For some reason, the way the law was written at the time, it had to be a countywide referendum. So they took a shot, And I came in at the tail end of it. I kind of heard about it. So a friend of mine, his name is J.P. Otino, who has since passed away. I called him up and I said, JP, who do I get in touch with in order to be part of this? He gave me Alan Turl's number. I called Alan Turl, and they started to include me in their group. We always met at Alan's townhouse over at City View. We didn't have a community center back then, so we met in homes and churches and people's backyards. And, that's the way we organized back then. And so we met at Alan's living room. And I would sit in the back and listen to all of them. They were extremely argumentative amongst one another, fist fights, and just it was really it was a growing process for our community to watch this evolve. But in the end, we held together, and the referendum happened, and we lost. I'm going to say it was like, maybe 60-40 we lost, but I thought of that as a win because at least 40% voted for it. So, and that was a time when people weren't necessarily so sympathetic to the gay community. So I thought it was an important first step.